next business session, ladies and gentlemen, this is on spices. This session will be moderated by Vishwa Mohan Kumar, commodity anchor ET Now. Please put a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Put your hands together for Vishwa Mohan Kumar. Vishwa Mohan is going to lead a heavyweight panel. From Expo Commodities, Sri Lanka, Kunal Goel. Kunal Goel from Expo Commodities, Sri Lanka. From the Navi Mumbai Merchants Chamber, India, Gopal Ahuja. Gnanam Imports Private Limited, Sri Lanka, G. Rajendran. Adamjee, Lukmanjee and Sons, Sri Lanka, Murtaza, Lukmanjee. And to complete the panel, Founder Chairman, Federation of Indian Spice Stakeholders, also known as FISS, Ashwin Nayak. With that, it's time to hand you over to your moderator, Vishwa Mohan Kumar, commodity anchor ET Now. And just to remind you all that we do have a video and also a small PowerPoint as part of the panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, BSA Foundation, for this wonderful opportunities, and the entire team of BSA. And this session would highlight about the spices market. We would try to understand the global dynamics of spices market. We have very esteemed guest of spices industry from India and Sri Lanka. So I would start with Mr. Murtaza. Murtaza, you in Sri Lanka as a prominent player of spices industry, how do you see Sri Lanka's role in evolving in the global spice market?
Thank you and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So, Sri Lanka is a consistent player in the world spice market, but I must say that we are not a significant player. None of the Sri Lankan spice crops have a significant impact on the world market. So we are usually a price follower when it comes to the trade. Sri Lanka essentially has a very limited scope of spices, unlike India, which is producing almost every conceivable spice there is. Our biggest production of spice is in black pepper, followed by cinnamon, and that's where we have a unique proposition because we have differentiated ourselves very well in the cinnamon trade from cassia. And especially in South America, this product commands a huge premium. And in the last 5 years, we see an increased substantial demand of pure Ceylon cinnamon from India as well. The next spice would be cloves, and then nutmeg and mace. So essentially, I would say that Sri Lanka is confined to these 5 spices in the world markets.
So what are your major market? You talked about India. What are the relation with India in spices export? Or what do you ask and what's your demand from Indian government to make a smoother export from Sri Lanka?
So I think when it comes to black pepper, as I mentioned, black pepper is the largest production of spice in Sri Lanka. And when it comes to black pepper, unfortunately, there is a barrier in terms of MIP, minimum import price that is imposed by India. And our request would be to remove that because it's counterproductive to free trade. Sri Lanka and India enjoy a FTA. We are also part of SAAF2025, and there are various mechanisms in place to control the export of pepper. I do believe that in agricultural commodities, every country has to look after their own farmers, but I don't think that Sri Lanka's production of black pepper has any significant impact on India's farmers because As we have seen in many commodities and in this forum today, growth in India is resulting in huge increases or consistent increases in demand domestically.
India is the largest market. Ashwin Nayak, sir, because you are representing the leading spices association of India, is it possible to remove MIP on black pepper or any other spices that we import from Sri Lanka?
Actually, black pepper is mainly running by the South India. We are representing Northwest India. As per my knowledge, the lobbying of the farmers, on the name of the farmers, some traders are doing these things and they always forcing government and the GFT to impose the MIP. But from our association, I will try my best to remove the things from the trade barriers, like in any fair trade of the world, this type of things is actually not good. So we will discuss with the DGFT.
Definitely, sir, restricted policy is not good for any fair trade. Mr. Rajendran, you are into import side. What do you import in Sri Lanka? Do you have any trade partner in India too? And what are the key spices you import from India?
Hi. Yes, Sri Lanka is one of the largest importers of dried chilies from India, because Sri Lanka is one of the very spicy country, and a lot of people they used to have this chili-based product. And because we used to import about more than 5,000 tons per month, so it's a big 5,000 to 6,000 tons for the people of 22 million. So it's a very huge quantity of chilies we are importing from, especially from Andhra Pradesh, and sometimes we do from Pakistan, and even sometimes from China too.
Mostly you import red chilies and cumin seeds from India.
Yeah, we import red chilies from India. There are 2-3 varieties.
Are there any challenges in importing from India?
No. No, there is a duty, about 100 rupees per kilo. So that's it. So from last, I think, a couple of 45 years, we are depends on imports. Due to our land, we are having a very short of land, so we can't grow a huge, we need a very...
Do you think prices are quite competitive?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it
India
has
is
corrected so
yeah.
much from its peak that we saw in 2023.
Yes. Last year in 23, it was very peak, and now I think last year the crop was very good. The price has come down from $3,000 to $1,600. So this year also there is a huge carry forward stocks is available in the old cold storage in India, and as well as the new crop is starting in February. So we hope that prices may even ease for some time. And apart from the chilies, we used to import cumin seed and fennel seed from India and Pakistan.
Ashwin sir, what's your outlook for cumin seeds for 2025? Because he thinks the current price is quite reasonable in cumin seeds. So what's your overall outlook for 2025?
Actually, in cumin seed, we will have a good carryovers from the last year crop. And current year crop prediction is currently around 15-20% less sowing is there, but next 1.5 month weather is important for the crop. If that remains good and crop comes safe, then I think price will remain in current levels only. The levels currently are already, I think, bottomed out, so there is no chance for the further downside, because once the prices go more down, farmers are also not selling the cargo and they are holding, because farmers holding capacity is also increasing every year. But if there is something wrong with the weather in next 1.5 month, then price might be increased by 10-20%. But big jump also is not possible in any case.
Okay. Do you have any data for red chilies as well?
For?
Red chilies?
No, red chilies I don't have.
What about the turmeric and coriander?
Turmeric, I think in the history of the crops, this year I think we don't have the carryovers, almost nil carryovers for the next year. The current crop size prediction is better than last year, but last year crop size was very less. So carryover plus the current crop year prediction, that almost matching to the whole year's demand or 10-20% less than the whole year's demand. So that figure suggests new high prices for the next year in turmeric, I think.
So is there any concern for yield as well in India for turmeric?
Yeah, because the weather is not supporting to the current crop, and there are talks between the farmers and traders or the people those who are surveying the crop. They are reporting that the yield is not good, and maybe the plus size of the crop is reducing by the yield. So if that is really happening, then price will maybe record high this year.
For turmeric, you are
For
talking about.
turmeric, yeah.
Okay. So this sounds good. So I'm coming to you, Mr. Ahuja. You are part of Navi Mumbai Merchant Chamber. Earlier, you was also part of World Clove Council India. So how has the global demand for cloves evolved over the years, and what is the current trajectory we are moving towards?
Well, at the moment, demand and supply are little skewed. There's more demand than supply as of now. But there's a unique thing you must understand about cloves. You cannot generalize it in the global front because the biggest producer of cloves in the world is Indonesia. And Indonesia is the biggest consumer of the cloves also. They use it for making cigarettes. Yeah.
Okay.
And so within Indonesia, there is a shortage. That will determine the behavior of the price outside Indonesia. So there is a shortage in Indonesia. The crop was smaller than the normal crop, but it was bigger than the last year. So I think we are evenly poised at the moment for a little bit of a strength in the market.
So do you have any such data you
Yes,
would like
of
to
course, I would like to
present through
I would like to.
PPT?
I would like to, because spices is a very, very vast field. Last count of spices and herbs I heard was 150 plus. So it's very, very difficult to compact it within a session
Data
of
will
an
be
hour.
all related to cloves or
No, no, no,
other
no, 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 no.
spices?
First, I will give you the general view of the spices all over the world, the market size, and the next 10 years scenario. I will just take you through it quickly. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Can we have the presentation, please?
Forward, the green one, back, red one.
The green one. Thank you. So we're going to talk about the numbers and trends of spices as a whole. Spices, when I say spices, it's also inclusive of the herbs. Now, what is the difference between spices and herbs? Spices are all plants parts, all parts of the plants, but herbs are mainly the leaves of the plant. So spices will have fruit, nuts, seeds, roots, etc., bark, etc., including the leaves. But the herbs will be mainly the thyme, oregano, and things like that. So just to make you aware of the difference between the spice and the herb. So spice consumption has been, as expected, lowest in Europe and the highest in India, South Americas, and Latin Americas. In fact, in India, on a daily basis, 1.5 grams of turmeric per person is consumed. And regionally, the growth for the next 10 years is going to be highest in the United States at the rate CAGR of 5.9%, and India is, since the base is high, it's at 4.3, and China at 4. Emerging trends are several for the next 10 years, what the spices would be used for. But my favorite has been, since I'm coming from a medicinal background, medical research background, the anti-aging aspect of the spices. They are packed with antioxidant. That's my favorite, so I think that's going to be a trendsetter in the next few years. As far as market size is concerned, it's 171 odd billion US dollars in 2024, and it's poised to grow to almost $244 billion, giving you a CAGR of 3.6%, which was in 2019 to 2023 was 3.34%. So there is a jump from 3.34 to 3.6 expectation. Very important aspect of spices which is not usually discussed in such seminars is the spice extracts, which are gaining a good bit of momentum due to several end uses. So its market size is about $60 billion at the moment, and with CAGR of 3.5%, it is expected to grow to $23 billion. Of course, India will be again having the lion's share in this. Coming to specifically the pepper issue, the pepper market as divided regionally is expected behavior that highest consumption is in Asia Pacific and lowest is in Europe. The sectors which are using this pepper is food and beverages, pharmaceuticals, personal care products, and others. Pepper market monetization is about $2.5 billion and is expected to go to 5.4 billion and CAGR of 8.2. So you see it is outstripping the total CAGR of the spices. So it's going to be one hot item for the next 10 years. Leading players in the black pepper brands are listed up. We can go through them easily at the later stage. Coming to my favorite clove market, which was monetized at $5.5 billion last time, and now it's expected to grow to about 6.7 by 2033, 2028 rather, and again a CAGR of 3.7%. In a normal crop year, the lion's share goes to Indonesia, as I mentioned, almost 75% of the total world produce. And one thing you should note, the spices generally are used in our food products as curries, but in Indonesia they make cigarettes after blending with tobacco, and these cigarettes are called krateks because they make a crackling sound on burning. The clove makes a crackling sound on burning, so they're called krateks. And of course, India is a very insignificant player. What we have been waiting for is the estimation of the crop of 2024. Indonesia normally gives you a crop of around 100,000 plus, but this year it has given you 85,000. And other countries have been more or less on the normal front. Yet, the interesting part will be if you take away Indonesia product from here, the rest of the world production and the demand in the rest of the world minus Indonesia are sort of evenly poised, but could go either way, but I would vote for going in the bull phase. Export of Sri Lanka, spices vis-a-vis India, since you've heard that India is a very, very big market for Sri Lankan spices. The clove has shown a very, very once in a lifetime different behavior. That India share was in imports of Indonesia, in imports of Indian cloves into India, Sri Lanka at one time gave 20%, played a role of 20%, but today it has gone to 0.5% or thereabout. For a simple reason, we'll discuss it during the discussion. And on the other hand, pepper, consumption of pepper, Sri Lankan pepper in India has climbed up tremendously, as you can see, almost doubled in the last 11 months of 2024, for which data I have, is almost 23,000 tons. The total crop size was 30,000 tons. Import of cloves into India, total import of cloves into India has been playing a yo-yo game, kabhi upar, kabhi niche. This is a very elastic item. Its behavior is determined by the price of cloves. So price determines the volume of imports. And imports of stems, which was earlier regarded as an admixture, is now legally standardized by FSSAI, the Food Safety Standards Authority of India. They have set certain parameters for which you can import the stems also into India because they are part of the clove plant. So there's no harm in admixing the stems. Well, that's in nutshell about the scenario of cloves. Thank you for the opportunity to me.
Okay. Mr. Ahuja, I have a question. Just please be seated. Yeah, what are the challenges Indian spice growers, particularly I'm talking about the cloves growers, what are the challenges for them in terms of competition from other nations?
India grows about 1,200, 1,500 tons. Our need is over and above 18,000 tons. So it is an insignificant player. The cloves have been imported since Malukas, since the times immemorial. Policies were restricted to protect the Indian farmer for several years, but things did not take off in the right perspective. So now most of the countries' imports of cloves are duty-free.
Is there any initiatives is being taken by global leaders or India for sustainable farming of cloves?
Many countries have taken up the initiative in the right earnest. As you're sitting in Sri Lanka, they have very well organized and taken the farming of or the growing of the clove trees. They are more than 100-year-old trees. But the yield goes down as the tree ages beyond 50 years or so. And new trees are to be planted and wait for 7 years till they bear the fruit. So countries like Sri Lanka, Zanzibar, they have taken up in a more organized manner. Madagascar has been taking up in the right earnest by making the perfect quality for Indian market, since it is going into the food. So appearance is very important. Dikhega to bikega.
Mr. Kunal, you are from Kunal Goel, Expo Commodities from Sri Lanka. So you are operating in Sri Lanka.
First of all, good afternoon, everyone. I'm deeply honored to be a part of this panel and discussion. So as an Expo Commodities, we have a main office in Dubai.
Okay.
And we trade spices globally.
Okay. So how do you see the current trend in global spices trade, particularly in Sri Lanka and India?
As Mr. Murtaza and Mr. Ahuja has said, India has been significant player in Sri Lankan spices. Most of Sri Lankan spices is going to India because of the duty benefit what Indian government is giving to Sri Lankan spices, for example, cloves and pepper. If you say Vietnam is the largest producer for pepper and second largest is Brazil today. So India is imposing more than 60% duty in those regions, and Sri Lankan paper, Indian government is giving license to import duty-free paper. If importer doesn't get a license, then the duty is very nominal, which is just 8%. So I would say 99% black pepper from Sri Lanka is going to India. And this year, major surprise has been given by Sri Lanka to India, especially when it comes to pepper. I clearly remember in the beginning of the season, 99% of paper traders were very bullish. They were ready to risk everything just to buy paper because everyone was so bullish. We were expecting early crop in Sri Lanka for about 20,000 tons, though it's a big crop when it comes to Sri Lankan paper. But I checked the data last month, and already 24,000 something tons has been already exported, and still Sri Lanka has some cargo left there. So this is what pulled, markets down in India, and most of the traders lost money. And second thing is which has pulled the global paper upside potential. It's been very constrained because of the overproduction of paper in Sri Lanka and in Indonesia. In Indonesia, last 3 years, the crop was not that great, and no one was expecting that Indonesia can give a surprise in the paper market. But suddenly, Indonesia has given everyone a surprise, which has produced 60,000 tons of paper out of the blue, which has held a lot of paper traders in the world. held back. And I would say like here also people who would have traded paper, I would say 90% of people unfortunately would have lost money. But now things looks good. As per the global supply and demand of paper, I would say still there is a deficit. And 2025 has a lot to bring where I see marginal downside and more upside in paper.
So you shared the demand supply scenario and price trend. But what are the challenges in global trade?
There's been a lot of, the major challenge I would say like we as an organization is facing today is the proper data, proper survey of crop. For example, I'll give you like last year, Brazil, one of the top trader in Brazil, I won't like to name them, but one of the top trader in Brazil have given the estimate that they'll produce about 120,000 tons of paper. 120,000 tons, report has been published. Most of the traders has that eye of that volume on the mind when they take their decisions. And we were surprised to see only 58,000 tons of paper has been exported, which is almost half of the volume. And 60,000 tons of paper is a significant volume in paper, right? So, yeah, so we don't have, proper methods to study the crop size in the world. So this is a major challenge in, I would say, in spices trade today. Yeah.
Yeah, many times we also hear about that pesticide issues of Indian spices. Is there that issue still persist in global market?
Not global market, I would say. Pesticide is mainly being considered in like Europe and some parts of US. Yep, so for Europe, Indian exports has been very minimal now, and the best paper to consider when it comes to pesticide free is Cambodia. So Cambodian exports has been increasing, but yeah, India, like as we know, like our farmers are using a lot of pesticide, like fertilizers and all to overproduce the cargo. And now it's very, very difficult to produce organic paper or like pesticide things, like especially when it comes to spices in India. Okay. Yeah.
Mr. Murtaza, how is the geopolitical landscape that affecting spice exports from Sri Lanka?
Well, as you know, Sri Lanka has had a change in government recently in November, a resounding change. The voters have voted very vehemently for a new government that has no experience, but had a lot of credibility. And that is clearly giving a signal geopolitically both to India and our surrounding SAARC countries that Sri Lanka needs to change. Sri Lanka needs to go away from archaic policies. Sri Lanka needs to be more transparent, corruption-free economy. And I think that has also sent a very positive signal to our neighbors, especially India. So how does that relate to the spice trade? Well, perhaps, transparency is always good for trade, right? And when we have transparency, we are all seated here with no vested interests or nothing to gain from anything. We're just here to trade. We are adding value to our economies, and we are fostering relationships through trade. So geopolitically, we are very close to India because of our
logistic cost and geographically.
Exactly, yeah. We can send goods from Colombo to Nhava Sheva cheaper than it takes from Chennai to Nhava Sheva. So we have a few advantages in that, and I think we do make use of that whenever we can.
Okay. What are other challenges, Mr. Murtaza, in export? Because in export market, you have to set a parameter, set a standard to export in any countries. As he was mentioning about European Union and some part of US, where rules are very stringent. So in that reference, how do you see your parameters, Sri Lankan parameters for export product?
So there are challenges, but frankly, my view may be different from others, but I think frankly, the fact that FISS, the Indian standards, has become stricter, and there's a lot more checking of cargo and things like that. I believe in the long run, that's a positive thing because finally all of this is food and we all are the ones who are eating it. So I think the fact that the FSI standards have become strict, or I think the standards were always there, but I guess implementation has become more stringent. That's a good thing. The only thing is that it has to be done in the right way and again with transparency. So as long as the indications of what we can export and what we cannot export and what the standards are and how it's going to be tested are transparent and very clear, then it's up to the Sri Lankan exporters to change their product lines and get to those standards.
Have your products have ever been rejected in international market for quality related issues?
I mean, there's always, minor export, minor issues. Nothing is perfect. This is a food commodity. And yes, people do experience issues, but it needs to be overcome. Having mentioned about this Indian standards, one problem that we do see sometimes is that there is a very subjective, way of checking. Sometimes some cargoes are checked and then sort of purposely held on and things like that. So what we look for is openness and transparencies. It's good to have the standards, it's good to implement the standards, but it needs to be very clear and fair for all.
Okay. Ashwin sir, there was a news last year, so many shipments were rejected from Singapore, Hong Kong, European Union of Indian spices. That has been sorted out or still there?
I think it's almost sorted out. It was not for the pesticides, but it was for the ETO treatment. Actually, that is a treatment mainly doing for the sterilization to reduce the microbiological contamination of the product. So there are two treatments, ETO treatment and steam sterilization. So half part of the world are accepting ETO treatment and half part are not accepting the ETO treatment. They need steam sterilization, mainly European countries. So many smaller countries are following Europe, many smaller countries are following USA. USA till allowing ETO treatment. There are so many ETO plant in USA. But those who are following Europe, they insisting for the steam sterilization. And only that was the problem. But in India, media and the print media and the electronic media, social media, everywhere it was speculated like a big thing was happened. But as an organization, we and others organization explained to the people, and after that, I think issue is already not in discussion right now. Both treatments are going on, both are safe, and nothing wrong with the ETO or nothing wrong with the steam.
So, what are your message for new entrants, new exporters from India?
Normally, for this ETO treatment, if anyone new people are coming into the trade or they are planting a plant, then I think ETO is going to be removed slowly and gradually because some kind that is it's a chemical type of treatment. So future is for the steam sterilization only. But I don't think steam is also a permanent solution because it's required big investment and that also change the characteristics of the product, change the color. But till if anyone is investing, then steam sterilization is okay, but not to go with the ETO sterilization.
So, your associations are more into significant spices like cumin seeds, coriander, turmeric. Do you have any data as a PPT which can show some relevant data for our audience here? Do you have any video or PPT?
No, for the data I don't have the video or PPT. I have the video of my organization that we are going to play after our panel is finishing because we are going to do the MOU with this organization.
You are also going to present your PPT.
Yeah.
Okay. No problem. Mr. Rajendran, in import side, what are the major challenges for you?
Now, recently, we have a big challenge with the imports of chilies and coriander. Now, our Sri Lankan government from last November 15th, they have imposed all the containers should undergo with the Sri Lankan Standard Institution testing. So recently we found there are a lot of quality issues with Indian chilies, and with the aflatoxin levels are very high and the moisture is very high. So some cargoes I heard they have got rejected and it has been re-exported. So that is the only one big challenges now we have importing chilies, as well as now we are importing coriander from other countries like Bulgaria and Russia and Ukraine. And those also we have a similar inspection by the Sri Lankan Standard Institute, and we found certain parameters are not matching with the Sri Lankan Standard Institute. So that is a big challenges we have, but we are discussing with the government, the SLSA department, as well as the exporters in India, as well as other countries to sort out these major issues. Because the aflatoxin is the main cause for the cancer, so that's what the government is very much concerned about that.
Thank you, Mr. Murtaza. What potential market do you see as untapped for Sri Lankan spices market, and how it can be explored?
Well, what's interesting is that in Sri Lanka, Gopalbhai mentioned about the clove trade. We have evolved Sri Lanka into a slightly bit of a niche where we are producing a grade of cloves that is commonly called lal pari, and that's essentially because of the reddishness. And we have found that India is one of the few markets in the world that are ready to pay a good premium for it. And Sri Lanka has found this niche. So I'm not completely answering your question because you asked untapped. This has now been tapped, but compared to, say, 2-3 years ago where our lal pari production was insignificant, today I would say that about 65-70% of our crop is being produced for this grade. And essentially it's a nice clean looking clove which is a reddish color rather than the normal sun-dried clove which is brown in color. And that's the differentiation. So that's something we have already tapped and it's growing. And demand for that is continuously growing.
Mr. Ahuja, how can India strengthen its position in the global spices market?
India is the largest producer of the spices, largest consumer of the spices, and largest exporter of the spices.
Sometimes we become largest importer also in few
Yes.
spices.
If people like me, who would not have been there to import spices into India, today you would be paying 1,500 rupees for your black pepper, which is now at 700 rupees. You would be paying 2,000 rupees for the cloves per kilo, which is now at 700 rupees. It is people like us who source the cheaper, better quality material, which after paying the import freight, most of it is duty free also, we still compete with the Indian produce. Case in point is black pepper. The Sri Lankan black pepper has got 6% minimum piperine as compared to Indian, which has 4%. Piperine is a key ingredient of a black pepper. So you pay for the piperine. Lanka gives you a better piperine at a cheaper price. So why not? I mean, after paying import duty of 8%, there is a tariff on minimum import price as well as import duty on pepper from Lanka, even though we have signed ISFTA, but that's a small insignificant amount of 2,500 tons per annum, which is allowed duty free, and it is given as dan, as a what do you call it, charity. Each importer gets an import license of 1.6 tons. A container can accept 10 tons and 25 tons, and you're giving me a license of 1.6 tons. This is the policy of import into India. But in spite of overcoming all the hurdles, we are making sure that the Indian consumer gets the best of the world at the cheapest of the price. So the challenge for India is to change the mindset now, integrate itself with the world market, and then see the true form of Indian traders and businessmen.
But in spices, most of the farmers, they get the good prices. Do you think in India they are getting the good prices?
They get
reasonable
excellent
prices?
price. Indian cloves is selling higher than the imported cloves because they make a good premium quality. From where Lankans have picked up a tip and they started applying that post-harvest process, which is now fetching them a premium in the world market, not just India.
Mr. Kunal, you are operating in international market like Dubai, Sri Lanka, and many part of the world. You might be exporting some spices. What technologies are being adopted in those markets to enhance quality, yield? Could you give those ideas to our farmers, to our growers in India as well?
Thing is, we mainly trade in cloves, pepper and all. Cloves mainly grows in jungles. Like mostly cloves comes from Indonesia, where like it's difficult for any individual trader, like for me and Mr. Ahuja and all, to travel because Indonesia consists of like 23,000 islands. So mainly we are not aware like what technology or what things they use to increase the production and all. It's very, very difficult for us to understand. And same goes in Madagascar, Comoros, Zanzibar. I'm not sure how it goes here in Sri Lanka. Mr. Murtaza may be able to throw some more light on that because here the most parts of close-growing areas are more accessible. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I won't be able to comment on that. Yeah.
So we are entering into the last round of the session. Ashwin sir. So what's your advice for Indian farmers?
For the Indian farmers,
Yeah.
actually, the main thing is going on worldwide is the control of the pesticides. In all our seed spices, we are facing a problem from the main importing countries is the use of pesticides because they are now reducing, allowing of pesticides levels, the products levels and the ppm, both they are reducing every year. So I think if farmers move not 100% to the organic, but less use of pesticide and more or kind of IPM, the integrated pest management product, because if immediately shifting 100% to the organic, then that might be a reduce the crop size, and that will harm a lot for the prices and the requirement of our own countries and the worldwide. So that is the main thing. And another good thing farmers have to implement is when they see the price rise in any product, next year they go with that product crops only, and that news only reduce the price drastically. And that will not help to the trade and themselves both. So if there is, I don't think any mechanism is possible, but that things also have to change with the farmers.
Mr. Rajendran, do you think value addition in spices could increase the profitability?
Pardon?
Value addition in any spices could increase the profitability for them?
Yes, you mean this. We are doing this. Sri Lanka is one of the major masala. It's like Sri Lankan have a special masala for eastern province. They have a different type of masala. So north people, they have a different type of masala. Even all over Sri Lankans, they like even all over Sri Lankans, those who are living in all over the world, they like even Sri Lankan brands. So there are a lot of exports also happening. So like that. So a lot of value addition products are going all over the world. So our big challenging is from India, how we can get the best quality of chilies and other products.
Okay. Mr. Murtaza, what policy changes or support mechanism would you recommend to the government, all the concerned government?
Well, I think as I mentioned before, one of the policy changes that India what we would specifically request is removal of MIP. I don't think I think it's counterproductive, and it's like a non-tariff barrier, if you may call it that, to try and prevent the imports. And as Gopal Bhai said, you know, India is growing, and Indian consumers are hungry, so feed them, is what I would like to say. Apart from that, I think we touched about the processing side of it. So I think from a Sri Lankan government point of view, providing technology to the farmers at farmer level in a very basic form, I think is something that's very important, because as you know, spices, when harvested, need to be looked after very carefully. It's a high value product. All spices in the world is usually at high values, and it needs to be processed correctly. So simple drying mechanisms, simple methods of storage and things like that, I think are critical technological improvements that can help our industry.
Okay. Mr. Ahuja, because you are more experienced than anyone else on the dais. So how we can, or our government can work towards the reducing the gap between farmers, traders and exporters?
Well, we have various forums where we pass on the information. Thanks to the advent of internet and digital age of communication, the farmer is now more integrated with the end user as previously. So the supply chain management has been more streamlined, inventories have been more rationalized, the farmer is getting his due for the right quality. But one unique thing about spices, I would like to draw your attention to. The farmer will produce in bulk a very top elite quality or a middle level quality, and at the same time he'll have quite a few rejections, I mean bad looking apples, you can say, bad looking spices. The unique thing about this industry is nothing goes to waste. The lowest of the quality or little notch above that will go into oil extraction. And the next level will go into making powders. And the elite one, the good looking one, will go into the organized and modern retail sales, like D-Marts and other stores. So the farmer is now well aware of these aspects. That has, the digitalization of communication has really helped him. And as far as your previous question about how the government can help implementation of these things, is that you have very able-bodied like NAFEDs. We had a very small honeymoon period with NAFED also, with the import of spices. But that lasted very little, as the honeymoons are. So luckily that government thought now we are well off to render spices. Most of the spices are now duty-free and freely importable with marginal tariffs, except for cardamom, which has got a preventive import duty of 70%. Black pepper from countries other than Sri Lanka, the import duty is to the extent of 58% plus. So most of the spices, we are now competing with the world.
Okay.
And bringing the goodness to the consumer.
Okay. Mr. Kunal, you already talked about the demand, supply, price trend, everything, about the challenges and all. My last question would be, what are the views on the growing demand for ethically sourced and sustainable spices?
Huge, I would say. Like this sustainability sourcing, traceability and all has been actually, this has been started mostly in Europe. Most of bigger companies in Europe, like Fuchs, we are their business partners since past couple of years. They were the one who taught us initially, like I would say, like 6 years ago, the traceability, sustainability. Thing is, how trade happens in Europe is, if they found even a single pesticide or anything in any specific spice, the entire lot from entire Europe, they have to recall it, which costs them billions of dollars. So they need a specific data on traceability of from their suppliers, from where are they producing and how they are been on in which farm this particular spice is growing, which farmer it is growing, what soil is being used, what fertilizers is being used, everything about that sort. And they need entire traceability of that farms and all everything, which has been adopted by Europe first. Now, other parts of the world are coming to this, but if they come to all this, the cost increases. And in most part where spices has been consumed largely in Middle East, in Asia and all, our markets are mainly price sensitive. So consumers would not be able to pay their price.
Okay.
So yeah, it's good for the world. It's good for human people if like we follow the main this thing, but the cost will gonna increase. Yeah.
Thank you all gentlemen
You're welcome.
for taking your time out for this session. Thank you so much, everybody. Sir.
Thank you.
Very much. Vishwa, Mohan, wonderful panel, and thank you very much. We'd like to request you to please thank our panel by giving mentors on behalf of the organizers. So if you could just step into the center, I'll call the panel to you up one by one. First off, we'll start off with, from Expo Commodities Sri Lanka, Kunal Goel. Up next from the Navi Mumbai Merchants Chamber, Gopal Ahuja. Moving to the other side, Vishwa Mohan, it's now time to welcome from Adamjee, Lukmanjee and Sons, Murtaza Lukmanjee. Moving on to Gnanam Imports Private Limited, G. Rajendran. And concluding the panelists from the Federation of Indian Spice Stakeholders, Founder Chairman Ashwin Nayak. May I please request Sudhakar Tomar to please step up on stage and present a memento to our moderator, the commodity anchor ET now, Mr. Vishwa Mohan Kumar. Gentlemen, I request the panel to please give us a group photograph, please. A group photograph altogether.